The following broadcast contains mature themes and disturbing subject matter. Viewer and listening discretion is strongly advised.
Happy Thursday, happy Throwback Thursday to one and to all. Perhaps it is Friday, depending upon where you are on the globe. Give yourselves a round of applause for making it to and through another day, because as we know, or most of us know, and appreciate that each day is a blessing. So, without further delay, if our hearts have still not mended in the very, very sad and tragic case of 19-year-old Cara Thompson out of Maryland who went missing, and unfortunately, those of you that have been following that story, it unfortunately did not end up well. She was found. She's no longer with us. And they have a man in custody. We have another missing person, this time 23-year-old Kada, Kada Scott, 23 years old, hailing out of Philadelphia. So we are going to travel virtually to Pennsylvania and look into this missing case. And again, I just, my thoughts and prayers to the family. It's been a very long time as it relates to missing persons cases. However, I would encourage people not to give up, not to give up. So, who is Kada Scott? Again, 23 years old. A graduate from Penn State and former, at least she competed for Miss Pennsylvania, USA. After her graduation from Penn State, she took on a position at an assisted living facility. Unfortunately, on the late evening of October the 4th, beautiful Kada Scott went missing shortly after she reported for work, again at a senior assisted living facility. Many family members and people in the neighborhoods canvassed looking for this young woman. Again, I want to shout out Nancy Grace, who has been covering these stories all over of these young women who have gone missing, and unfortunately, many who, again, turn up no longer with us. Now, as I mentioned at the top of the broadcast, she's been missing since October the 4th. Her vehicle was found in the parking lot of this facility. But what's odd, and maybe not odd to some people, but I would think that there would be cameras there. According to news stories, there were no cameras there. And this is where it gets a little bit weird, and I'm going to try and keep my emotions at bay. The search went into Aubrey, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly, Arboretum, which was a long, plush area. However, during that search, nothing was found. This led authorities to an abandoned school where, according to reports, and again, I implore you to do your research. You can look at CNN. I mean, the story isn't mainstream, but it, again, it's not getting the attention I believe it should because I'm just hearing about it today. And today is October the 16th, 2025. The time is 8:50 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And again, at the abandoned school where they looked October the 15th, which was yesterday, there was physical evidence that links that Scott had been in the area. At present, at least the latest research I have, it could have been updated. It could be updating now as I'm speaking. It was not released as to what was found. This, again, is where it gets a little dicey. 21-year-old Keon King has been charged in abducting Kada Scott and using his phone to harass. And sad part about this case, shortly before she went missing, according to reports, she told friends that she had been receiving harassing phone calls. Now let's look at 21-year-old Keon King really quickly. In January, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, it is said he was arrested. What was he arrested for? And this is the kicker that may make some of you a bit angry because when I heard it, steam literally came out of my ears. And this is why I believe that there are certain people in these positions in law enforcement that should not be there. I do not know how many times I have read some of these stories where some of these people have committed certain crimes, but for the smallest reasons, they're let back out. This man right here, 21-year-old Keon King, I'm going to say allegedly, to be prudent and responsible, was arrested in January for allegedly kidnapping and harassing a female acquaintance. He was released because that witness did not show up for court. And now that 23-year-old Kada, again, Kada Scott, has gone missing again. Last time she was seen was around 10:30, 10:45 p.m. when she went to work the night shift at an assisted living facility. And as I mentioned earlier, she had complained of harassing calls. He was out free because the witness did not show up. Now, a lot of you are going to say, well, you have to follow the laws. I understand that. But for the prosecutors to come back and say, well, they're going to reopen that case Predicated on this case is, to me, and this is just my opinion, a sloppy attempt at damage control. I'm sorry. That's just how I feel about it. So let's look at this 1999 gold Camry that law enforcement believes Kada Scott may have been in. And one key element about this vehicle, it is said that it had heavy front end damage. This vehicle was found allegedly at a family member's condo, and it was towed away for evidence. As you can see, that's the 1999 gold Camry that officials, law enforcement officials, state that 21-year-old Keon King was driving. So you can see being placed in the back of the tow truck to be processed as evidence. They did not do that in Dakara Thompson's case, which I questioned then and I question now. But instead, officers told Dakara's father to take her vehicle home. They could have dusted the vehicle or tried to obtain latent prints or other things in that vehicle. It's tainted now. It's too late. To me, PG County dropped the ball on that for many reasons, and there's so much I would like to say, but I'm not going to. Maybe the police know, but some information came across my desk, and I looked into it, and I said, wow, wow, wow. If the community that's been following this case knew this bit of information, and if one of my suspicions turns out to be true, this is going to be very, very bad. It's bad now, but let's get back to this story. I will say this: what is done in the dark will truly come to light, no matter how much people may try to cover up mistakes or cover up whatever. Eventually, it'll come out because you never know who may know someone who knows something. And when we're making videos, I'll just say this really quickly. People go back and they pull certain things, they extrapolate certain things, and they can piece things together. So I would just encourage people to be very careful of certain things that they may say or exhibit on social media, because you never know. One action can come back and perhaps implicate you. You may not even think about it at that time because years have passed. Okay? I just want to make that perfectly clear. So this is the vehicle again, a 1999 gold Camry. Again, allegedly, the vehicle, which you could see the windows were heavily tinted. Again, allegedly, belonging to or being driven by 21-year-old Keon King. Okay, as I mentioned, there was a major search in the area of the Aubrey Arboretum, but and that covers a large area. Nothing was found. However, according to reports, there was a ping, a last ping, that led them to look at an abandoned school where physical evidence, which has not been disclosed, I guess for obvious reasons, that linked 23-year-old, beautiful 23-year-old to that location. This is just sad. So let's look at a couple of pieces of information. Earlier Wednesday, which was yesterday, October the 15th, police deployed drones, K9 units, and crime scene teams to search an abandoned elementary school in Germantown. Sources say they found physical evidence at the scene, including, pay attention and earmark this, according to reports, they found physical evidence at the scene, including Scott's debit card and a phone case. As I mentioned, Scott was last seen October the 4th after her overnight shift at an assisted living facility in Chestnut Hill. Police say her car was left at the workplace that day she went missing, and her phone was dead. I'm going to assume they meant her battery died. Her father, and again you can look for clips, states that that wasn't like her. Authorities say that Keon King, who was pictured earlier, and again a suspect in this missing case, because at present, even though the FBI and the homicide unit has been called in, it is still considered a missing case. They've called it a homicide unit, again, according to reports, because they are the best in these types of cases. Again, my heart and prayers to the family, and I am hoping that this unit will be able to find this young woman and she is found safe. So let me just put that out there now. Authorities say King was the last person in contact with Scott. Again, Kada Scott. Police are still working to determine how the pair knew each other, but believe they came into contact in the days before the disappearance. Again, this is what police believe. Again, it's just my opinion, okay, that when police say that they believe things, it's because they've seen something or they've connected something. Again, it's just my opinion. Before she went missing, Scott, as I mentioned earlier on the broadcast, told people that she was being harassed. But it is unclear if King was the person allegedly harassing her. So that's where the hiccup is. Again, in the court of law, you are innocent until proven guilty. So I have to put that caveat out there as well. Even though this just it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. I do not believe in coincidence. Those of you that know me, that have been following me, and those of you that really, really know me, that have had conversations with me, you know I am adamant that I do not, and I never have believed in coincidence at all. I just don't. Call me silly, call me anal, call me asinine, call me a fool. Actually, some of you have already done that many times, but that's just something I personally do not believe in, never have, and I never will as long as I breathe. This isn't, and this is the part that I mentioned earlier that really got my goat. This isn't the first time King, 21-year-old Keon King, has been charged with this sort of crime. So there's a correlation right here. Okay? However, police say that he was charged in January. January. Again, I'm not good in math, so pardon me while I count on my fingers. Again, I'm an investigator, but I'm horrible in math. January, February, March, April, June, July, August, September, October. So that's 9 months. And I hope I did that correctly. Again, I'm very transparent and I'm not ashamed. I have a horrible math phobia. So it's been about 9 months that he was charged in what they're saying, the same sort of crime in connection to the kidnapping and assault. Okay? Kidnapping and assault. Now, I don't know the laws of Philadelphia. I'll do some research, but I must honestly say I don't live in that area. None of the cases that I work on are in that area, so I have no idea, or the word I like to use, I have no clue. Okay, I have no clue as to what the laws are or codes for kidnap and assault charges in Philadelphia. But again, as I mentioned, he was charged in January of both kidnapping and assaulting a female acquaintance. And this is the part that I hope and pray that the connection, the correlation is not a match, even though my gut is telling me the probability of it being so. I'm just going to say the preponderance is higher than it's higher that it is than it isn't. I'll just say that. The case was never tried because the victim did not appear in court, officials said, but they have decided to refile the charges. Now, let me just say this. If Kada Scott, 23-year-old Kada Scott, is found, but not the way people are hoping and praying, and this man was let out knowing what he allegedly did, I believe, and this is my opinion, and if there are people out there that don't agree, please let me know in the comments. Again, dissent is healthy, and maybe you can have me see things in a different light. Because again, I seek knowledge and learning, and I don't know everything. I want to learn as much as I can, but if this is the case, I believe heads should roll. Secondly, how is it possible that there were no cameras in the parking lot of an assisted living facility? It's too vulnerable, in my opinion. Again, let's look at the alleged suspect, Keon King, 21 years old. Again, this is another picture of 23-year-old Kada Scott. More than a week after 23-year-old Philadelphia woman went missing, and that Philadelphia woman, again, Kada Scott, a man has been arrested and charged with her kidnapping, as well as the kidnapping of another woman earlier this year, and what police now, you don't see that in this article I just added now, part of a pattern, or as some people say, pattern. I don't know where the extra "ren" comes in, but you say potato, I say potato. We all understand what they mean. Suspect Keon King, 21 years old, was arrested Tuesday night and also faces a charge of recklessly endangering another person and use of a communication facility, meaning his phone, and the disappearance of Kada Scott, according to prosecutors. Meanwhile, authorities are continuing their search for Scott, who was last seen at her workplace on the night of October the 4th, again, 2025. So this is recent, well, a couple of weeks ago, because today, as I mentioned, is the 16th. Scott's mother, Kim Matthews, told CNN, "I just want her to come home and be safe. That's what I fear. She's not safe." This literally gives me goosebumps because that is the same sentiment echoed by Carmen Thompson, the mother of 19-year-old Dakara Thompson, who, as we know, was unalived and just discarded like trash by, again, allegedly, 35-year-old Hugo Rene Hernandez Mendez. Now, they focused a lot on that case because he was allegedly an illegal alien. 21-year-old Keon Scott is not. Same dropping of the ball, perhaps, because keep in mind, Hugo Rene Hernandez Mendez was charged in April with DUI, but somehow or another he was let out on the streets, and we all know the ending of the story of Dakara Thompson. Tracking phone communication led police to Keon King, according to Assistant District Attorney Ashley, and I apologize to the listening audience in advance because I do not know how to pronounce his last name, but I'm going to give it the old college try. Tuklowski. And that's the first and last time I'm going to attempt it. You can read it. Said at a news conference on Wednesday morning, and that would have been yesterday, Mr. King is the last person we believe to be in contact with her, and that he was in contact with her when she went offline. Kada Scott was last seen after leaving her job at an assisted living facility in Philadelphia. Police say the investigation into her disappearance is now being led by homicide detectives with the assistance of the FBI. Before her disappearance, again, I have to stress this, Scott had reportedly told her friends and family that she was receiving harassing phone calls per police. Again, this is 21-year-old Keon King, who has been arrested. He's the suspect. Again, innocent until proven guilty. We have to keep that in mind. Even though it may be difficult for many, it's the law. Innocent until proven guilty. Again, a few more photos of 23-year-old Penn State graduate Kada Scott, who went missing October the 4th. There is a GoFundMe page that has been set for her and for the efforts of trying to locate her and bring her home safely. I cannot tell you how it pains me to hear countless stories of women and children and men as well that are going missing from not only Maryland, where I hail from, but the District of Columbia, Virginia, and Philadelphia. I did a short research that there are a lot of women from Philadelphia that have gone missing. There are a lot of people speculating about trafficking. I don't know at this point. All I know is this young woman has been missing since October the 4th, and the word needs to get out. So if you do not share my video, and it is all right with me, at least post your own video or talk about it and get the news out so people can help and assist in that area for this young woman. I can't imagine as a parent knowing that your child has gone to work and they never returned. We just have a problem, and a lot of our young people are being targeted. And it's sad that you can't even go to work now. Now, they did say she may have left early. I do not know, and I cannot attest to the validity of that statement. However, again, according to some reports, that is another piece of this puzzle that was mentioned. Again, this is the vehicle that many believe that she may have been in. Again, what was found. And there were a couple of things that were released, but not everything. One was like her debit card. So, again, prayers that this young woman, this 23-year-old woman who is 23, my goodness, that's still a baby, at least to me. You're just beginning to live life. You just graduated from college. And unfortunately, we're back at another situation such as this. So again, more time, a few more pictures for those of you that might be just getting in and may catch the replay. This is 23-year-old Kada Scott, who went missing on October 4th in Philadelphia. She went to work at an assisted living facility. Again, who many reports are saying that the parking lot didn't have cameras and that the vehicle belonging to the alleged suspect, 21-year-old Keon King, who allegedly was arrested in January, 9 months ago, for kidnapping and assaulting another woman. But the case was dropped because the witness never showed up for court. Now, prosecutors are refiling charges as a result of this missing woman's case. 23-year-old Kada Scott. My heart prayers for her safe return to her family. And I don't mean to be pessimistic, but again, she went missing October the 4th. And again, miracles do happen, trust me. It's just, it's been a very long time. And again, a lot of coverage, once again, not really given to the story. Again, you can find a lot of this information if you go to Nancy Grace, who was very passionate about this, and there have been other news outlets. Again, a lot of the clips are maybe 2-3 minutes long, perhaps 5 minutes long. You really don't need that much time to put up a story, but to give the background and the context, and knowing that this man allegedly, like I said, was arrested just in January for something very similar with police, as I showed you in a clip earlier, is considering it as a pattern is disturbing. Your thoughts and opinions on if you believe that Kada Scott is still with us. Because many community members and law enforcement, to include, as I mentioned, drones. They had drones out there and K9 unit out there. So they had been looking desperately for this young woman. I predict within a couple of days we may hear something, and I pray that it is good news and that she is indeed returned home safely. But ladies, young ladies, older ladies, men, young men, older men, please be cognizant of your surroundings. I'm going to share this really quickly, and then I'm going to close this out because I want to bring real time context to these situations. Now, I'm a lot older now, okay? And I'm proud of my age. I'm 56. God willing, I don't know though, but God willing, 57 in just a little over a month. Just a little over a month. We'll see what happens. But there are times like today, for an example, I will draft reports, and I had a dog bite case today. I had been waiting for the meeting to be scheduled, and that took forever, but I met with the client today in Washington, D.C. I did not know the woman lived up all of those flights of stairs. And I'm like saying to myself, is there an elevator? Because I'm having a little breathing issue right now, but thank God I made it up there, and I was able to get past the smoke that was in the building. I was like, Lord have mercy. But anyway, we spoke at length, and I was able to gather a lot of information, and it was enough. And I had to go out and take photographs, of course. I'm going to be putting up these little slides as I tell my story. Pictures of her injury and her route that she was taking, and the home where the two pit bulls were. Yes, she was attacked by a pit bull. After doing that, I looked at the height of the gate and made contact to have a couple of witnesses call me because I needed their statements. I also needed a police report. So, again, I know a lot of Maryland law, but not a lot of DC law, especially when it comes to dog bite cases. And to be effective, I wanted to find out as much as I could on that, which I did. And I put into my report of investigation as far as if particular breeds need to be registered and how old they need to be and what type of shots they need to have. And I learned that dogs over 4 months old need to be registered. They need to have their rabies shots and their distemper shots. I also learned that they can be considered at restrict liability. Um, I'll have to go back and look at my report, but if they are not on a leash and they jump the fence, then it's considered um, at public or something other like that. Again, I have to go back and look. There is a registry, and I put that in my report as well. So I'm saying all of this to say I did a lot of research, and I like to do my reports in that the attorneys or paralegals or whomever reads it. They don't have to ask me a lot of questions. If they have to ask me more than 3 or 5 questions, then my report was not adequate and sufficient. And therefore, what is the purpose of my investigating? So I try to be as thorough, and what I don't know, I try to learn so it will be there for them so they don't have to ask a lot of questions. So I'm sitting there and drafting my report, and some strange individual I happened to see out of my peripheral was down the street just sitting there. So when I left, I noticed that individual left. So I pulled into this little convenience store and the vehicle pulled in. So finally I pulled in front of it, kind of catty cornered, looking at that individual as if, are you following me? Finally, they drove off, and I waited until they went around the corner. And I know some of the alleys where you can dip and get out, but the point I'm trying to make is you don't know who's watching you. You really don't. And I do have a habit, and I've been doing this for years, and I have to remember, at least you got to stop doing that. You got to stop sitting there and drafting your reports because we're not living in the days that we used to live in, and you don't know who might be watching. And again, that woke me up a little bit, and it angered me. That's why I pulled my car in front of them and gave them a look like, are you following me? As I've said, and some of you know, I'm trying to calm it down, but I still have a little bit of a short fuse, and I get I'll just say perturbed at certain things, and I've got to, like I said, take it down a notch, but we have to be careful of our surroundings. Holiday season is coming. A lot of people are ordering things online. I understand there's a government shutdown, but there are still people that have ordered earlier or had planned earlier, or are some that are still getting little things here and there. You have to be careful. I've warned my older cousin about this many, many times. If you order something and you know that it's coming, hurry up and bring it in the house. People study your patterns when you leave. They target the vulnerable, the older individuals. Again, you just have to be careful. Change your route when you're traveling home. If you use public transportation, change it up if you have to. A lot of times, uh, things that happen to people, it comes by the hands of people that may know you directly or indirectly. Strangers, yes, but a lot of times it may be by people that you know. Ride share. A lot of people rely on ride share. I remember when my vehicle was out of commission not too long ago. I had to depend on that. You don't think that sometimes we, my discernment makes me a little bit worried sometimes? That's when my prayer comes in. I pray all the time anyway, but it's really heightened then because you just don't know the motives and the mindset of people. I've heard many people say that evil is amongst us, and it most certainly is. But I also believe if you wear the armor of the Most High, you're protected as well. So, most of the time, when I go certain places, yes, I'm protected by a couple of things. I'll just say that. But be mindful of your surroundings. If you have a small circle that you can trust, let people know where you're going or clues in the event something happens. Try to make sure that your devices are fully charged or at least charged enough for your safety. So, again, in closing, prayers for the safe return of this beautiful young woman. And let this be a cautionary tale that we, unfortunately, even though I do believe there is beauty in this world, there are beautiful people, there's also an element of evil and ugliness. To be cognizant of your surroundings and, more importantly, your relationships. So, with that, thank you so very much for tuning in. And until next video, please, please be safe, be well, and be healthier. Bye bye for now.